The sword of destiny has two edges. You are one of them.
This line, borrowed from the second short story collection in the Witcher series, The Sword of Destiny, was used in the promotion of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt in its trailers and other promotional materials. It is not, as far as I'm aware, spoken in the game itself, though several characters make allusions to it. As the game draws to a close, this line, echoed throughout the series and into the games, takes on something of a definitive meaning. The first hints of how the game's final act will play out begins with a peculiar and standout quest during Geralt's return to Novigrad. The stoic and mysterious elf Avallac'h asks for his aid in an audacious mission: travel to the world of the NL Elves, the world where the Wild Hunt comes from, and convince them to deprive Eredin and his forces of support. It's a unique quest for several reasons. This is the first time Geralt and Avallac'h have truly spent time together in the game, but most memorably, the quest has you tumbling through one strange world after another, offering tantalising glimpses at the kinds of travels Ciri is embarked upon. But it's also hints of a scope to the setting of The Witcher which Geralt can do little more than flirt with. His quest is rooted in the muck and monsters of the Northern Realms. Interdimensional travel and other realities is a whole other story. And it's here we come face to face with the doom that has been fed to us in breadcrumbs throughout the books and games. The White Frost. The ultimate fate of all worlds. Its origins unknown. Much remains a mystery to old Geralt.
Where are we? World of the NL?
No. This is Ted Dara, the time of the end. The world destroyed by the White Frost. Alas, this awaits us all, though at differing stages of our existence.
So calm when you say that.
Eredin succumbed to his knowledge of the apocalypse. Fear rules him now. I'll not commit the same error.
Care to clarify?
Not here. Not now.
The mission is a success, however, and Eredin will have only the Wild Hunt itself to aid him in the confrontation to come. While making preparations for their battle with the Wild Hunt, we are also given more time with Ciri, who wishes to run a few personal errands. It's a chance for Geralt and Ciri to both to learn about her importance in the world's history, but also to offer her closure in Novigrad and Skellige. There's a moment here, while aiding a group of travelling performers Ciri befriended, where the two sit and talk about what kind of life they could have if they weren't tangled up in destiny.
Sometimes I wish I could be like them.
Me too. Being a witch is a burden sometimes.
As is my inheritance. I'd so like to be ordinary.
Geralt's so moulded by being a Witcher, it's hard for him to see past it, something we see clearly when he and Lambert spoke earlier in the game.
We all went through it.
That's just it. Not everyone made it. Lots of boys died here. Boys taken against their will.
It was our destiny.
But in Ciri, he sees a chance for another life. Whether it's fear of what she has to face or a genuine desire for her to make her own path is for the player to determine. Yet there's a clear difference in how they approach Ciri's importance.
Can always renounce a gift, turn it down.
It's not that easy. I tried once, remember? Besides, even if doing that were to free me of Eredin, there will always be those with some kind of plan that includes me. It was the sorceresses of the Lodge once. Now it's my father.
To Geralt, it's a burden that can be renounced, but for her, it's a responsibility too grave to ignore. Among the other errands is a visit to Avallac'h's hideout, where Ciri is confronted with the full extent of her heritage, and depending on the player's choice, be given a chance to reject or accept it. Though for clarity's sake, let's at least say the rebellious option is way more fun. We also get a sad moment where Ciri lays Scial properly to rest for his aid and unfortunate demise, which had been misconstrued as cowardice by his people. There's yet another moment where we see the weight on Ciri's shoulders, and despite all the danger she's in, how readily she takes on the burden of others, and how reluctant she is to become one for others.
Scial saved your bloody lives. The Wild Hunt was after me. Had Scial not led me away then, why they would have reduced Lofoten to ash.
What would the spectres be wanting of some lass who...
I am not some lass, and anyone who so much as touches this grave will learn that the hard way.
Wraiths pursue me. The Wild Hunt. I was foolish to use the power. They're sure to have caught my scent.
The Wild Hunt? Pursuing you?
I'll endanger all of you by remaining here. You don't know how it is to see someone you love die. Because of you. For you.
We all knew what we were signing up for.
Yes. And you saved me. For how long? A week? A month?
We'll hide you. Cover your tracks.
No. I will flee no more.
Despite her found family, Ciri seemed alone and isolated with herself, consigned to her fate. The world is resting on her shoulders. Geralt and the player may gently suggest otherwise, but Ciri can't shrug it off, and it's heroic as it is tragic.
Again, you planned without even asking what I think. I've had enough of this. I won't be taken somewhere like a bundle. I will not sit and twiddle my thumbs. I am sick of waiting, sick of hiding.
The Witcher 3 came at the peak of the dadification of games, a term to describe the trend in which maturing game devs centered fatherhood in the narratives of the titles they create. If there's a difference between it and most of the others that matters, it's how it centers Ciri's agency in all this. Even as we fill out Geralt's shoes, Ciri is the story's most important character, and she makes decisions all of her own. As Geralt, we can influence those choices and their outcomes, but the culmination of the story isn't about Geralt's actions, but about weighing up how well he's supported his daughter's choices. To use a pop culture analogy, Ciri is Luke Skywalker in this story. You, Geralt, are Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Not this time.
No, Ciri. You are not ready. You do not control your powers.
I'll manage.
Ciri.
Get out of my way.
Ciri. The ice. It's a spell. You must find the mage who cast it. Destroy his staff.
I'll not stop with his staff.
When the final battle is underway, the confrontation with the Wild Hunt is fraught, but it's Ciri who saves Geralt from death, during a sequence where she's at her most powerful, capable of slicing through the Wild Hunt with ease. Her intervention gives Geralt a chance at defeating Eredin's right hand, Caranthir, one of my favourite fights and moments in the entire game. Before carving a path to the King of the Wild Hunt himself, it's a chaotic battle, Skellige riders and Nilfgaard forces clashing with these heavy metal elves. Facing down Eredin, grand music plays, a spectacular location is chosen, but in the end, it's something of an anticlimax. Many were perhaps rightfully disappointed to find it all end in a boss battle, one with a menacing figure, but one we hardly know. Even Caranthir seems more of a known entity to us than the King of the Wild Hunt himself. But I feel the game does manage to pull this off because, well, this isn't actually the climax of the game. The actual finale involves Avallac'h, who has seemingly been scheming behind everyone's back, absconding with Ciri and opening a door between worlds that seems to threaten everything, monsters from other worlds pouring through. Yet when Geralt arrives for another showdown, Avallac'h isn't interested. More importantly, there has been no trickery played in Ciri. She was in the elf's plan the whole time. She intends to confront the White Frost, the real threat to all worlds, and it's been her plan all along. So the anticlimax feels a bit appropriate for me. As Ciri tells him,
"What can you know about saving the world, silly? You're but a witcher." This is my story, not yours. You must let me finish telling it.
There's many dialogue choices here at the end, though none of them can change the outcome. No matter which the player chooses, though, each represents a crucial aspect of what Geralt is going through. stoicism, fear, pain, and it's hard not to feel that. That mournful theme begins, the one played over Bran's funeral, signalling to us, the player, that this is it. This is the end of the story. After everything we've been through to find Ciri, this feels like being on the precipice of loss. But there at the bottom, there's pride.
Good luck, Ciri.
Perhaps I should have told you. I see now you might have understood.
Know you better than you think. Don't keep me waiting.
We watch from the sidelines with Geralt, unsure of what the White Frost is, unclear on how Ciri can defeat it. What is shown to us, though, is how important Geralt's relationship with her is in seeing her through. Geralt's journey has faced him with cautionary tales about parenthood, all lessons he has to use to guide Ciri in the game's final act. None of what he's had to learn is simple, and none of it is spelled out for the player either. In the end, it comes down to accepting your role in Ciri's life, a parent who can support her, but in doing so only encourage her to find her own path and be true to herself. There is a shockingly bleak ending for players who made choices that smothered Ciri. The White Frost is always defeated, but in one of the major endings, Ciri never returns, dying in her mission. Geralt then takes off after the surviving Witcher Crookback Bog in a futile mission where his only real intention is to allow himself to be killed, clutching Ciri's medallion that was taken. It feels a fitting end for Geralt in these circumstances, allowing the only major role left in his life, a monster slayer, to consume him entirely. That doesn't change the fact that it's staggeringly downbeat, and I can't even imagine how those who got this ending upon completing the game coped with it. The game's other two major endings have Ciri survive her battle against the White Frost and return to her world. Which of the two you get depends entirely on a single critical choice before leaving Kaer Morhen. Do you take Ciri to meet Emperor Emir Varamrys, her father? This is a tricky choice. At face value, you can imagine this as letting Ciri be aware of all her options, and in that sense it might seem the most encouraging. But it's also deciding to take her to see the ruthless ruler of an empire responsible for an incalculable amount of suffering. If you've read the books, then this is further complicated by the exact nature of Emir's relation to Ciri. His machinations for her over the years are obscured in the games, presumably to make this choice seem more reasonable, and not like you're handing her over to a man who once wanted to wed his own daughter. That said, if you do bring Ciri to Emir, you can get this amazing scene where Geralt could be this completely uncharacteristic arsehole and take a huge payment for bringing her to him. So, you know, maybe it's worth it.
Geralt?
$10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, and that makes an even $100.
There's a bittersweet tone in the resulting ending, with Geralt and Ciri spending one last day together before her new position calls her elsewhere. Again, on the face of it, it seems like letting Ciri grow into her own person, but in the end, it's simply letting her take on another truckload of responsibility. Convinced once again that helping the whole world is her responsibility alone, in spite of whatever happiness it'll deprive her of. Letting Emir steer her into becoming an empress doesn't feel like the actions of a kind and loving father, since it asserts that what Ciri can potentially do for the world is more important than her own well-being. So neither of these are my favourite ending, nor the one I consider the best. If you don't take Ciri to Emir and she survives the White Frost, then we get an initially auspicious scene with Geralt meeting the Emperor to tell him that Ciri's dead. We might already have an inkling that this isn't true, but we don't know for certain yet, which lets us sit better with the tragic news as Emir might. I love this final scene with the Emperor. Sure, you can take it at face value and see Geralt tricking the Emperor one last time, but to me, and later prodded at,
Did he believe you?
I have no idea.
it's a failed father making peace with the boundaries set by his daughter. accepting a lie because it's what she wants. A glimmer of humanity in an otherwise cold, ruthless character.
Witcher, I do not wish to see you ever again.
That lie is the reason I doubt the other ending, where Ciri becomes Empress. Ciri's sensitive to responsibility, putting others before herself, even if it means taking on the burden of an entire empire, even after you've saved the world. But here, given the chance and not talked into anything by the Emperor, she chooses the life of a Witcher. There's certainly something to be said about her two good endings involving her following the footsteps of one father figure or another, that in the end there is no path for herself. Maybe it's appropriate that Ciri is doomed to go down the road set by men, even as she defies the gender norms of her world.
To be honest, I prefer women.
But this choice at least feels true to Ciri, true to her need to help others, while true to her desire to shrug off her own heritage, to rise above the ambitions that define her lineage. Within the series' own themes of contempt for the rich and powerful, it seems only another bad ending for Ciri to end up joining the ranks of the ruling class. So when I see this final shot, Geralt and Ciri sat together, happy and peaceful for the first time, with a sword and title passed between them, the game comes into perfect clarity. The sword of destiny has two edges. You are one of them.
Let's try it out then.
Hello, we did it. We actually did it. We finally covered the entire base game of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It has certainly been a journey, one that took far longer than anticipated. I want to thank those of you who have been following and supporting it along the way, especially my patrons. I owe you so much and can never thank you enough for your dedication and support over the years. I've kept Subtext Adventure going through unemployment, homelessness, and various other crises, so it means everything to have been supported at every turn. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this series because we're not done yet. As I've said before, I do intend to cover The Witcher's expansions. However, I want to take a little break before diving into them, and so the next episode of Subtext Adventure will be a one-off, big special. Here's a little tease. Until next time.